Today's problem that we're going to be diagnosing is with our hydraulic system, which controls our slides and also our leveling. If I turn it on, it says I'm level, my jacks are down, I'm getting ready to go. So I need to raise up the front of my trailer so I can slide it onto my truck with a fifth wheel. If I just click on it, nothing happens. All I hear is a click. So after the intro, we'll go ahead and start diagnosing my hydraulics problem and hopefully help you out also. We had a dream to travel and see the world as locals and not as tourists. After a lot of hard work, we decided in 2021 to downsize and sell almost everything we owned. We then put our house on the market. We bought a fifth wheel, which we named Serenity, and then we hit the road to see the US. We are working to build the Bald Traveler into a travel resource for geeks and nerds who want to travel and see where their fandoms are based. We encourage you to subscribe and comment to follow along on our journey. Let's get ready to travel baldly together. Welcome back. So to start diagnosing this problem, we are going to need a multimeter that can get DC volts. Our hydraulic system is located in our battery compartment. It's dark and kind of tight, so we'll do our best to get this figured out. So we'll take the multimeter over. Okay, here we are in our battery compartment. And I just want to go over a couple parts of our battery compartment for everybody, just so you know what we're looking at. Right down here, this is where our batteries are. We have 6-volt batteries. We got 4 of them, 2 each in series to give us 12 volts to run the system, since it's a 12-volt coach. And then those 2 sets of 2 batteries run in parallel to give us more amperage. Each of the batteries are 225 amp hours. So we have 450 amp hours of batteries at 12 volts. So that's just basic electronics. Down here we have our master, right here we have our master breaker from the batteries to the rest of the coach. And in this case, we have an 80 amp. I've upgraded this from a 50 amp. So we have an 80 amp breaker right here going into our battery disconnect. This mainly handles our inverter for a refrigerator. And then we also have more connections. This connection here actually goes to our hydraulic dual polarity solenoid way down in there. This wire goes up to our dual polarity solenoid that determines which way the hydraulic pump flows. So the first thing I checked was that from here to a known ground, so this is right after the 80 amp high amp breaker, DC breaker, that we had over 13 volts. In our case, we had 14.1 volts. I verified that also with the fact that the inverter for the refrigerator is running, so we had voltage and amperage there. I then traced this wire up to my polarity, my dual polarity switch up here, and I verified that I had, between this and ground, that I had 14 volts. Again, matching what I had down below. If I pan over, this solenoid bank here controls our slide outs, and then this is for the leveling system. So what happens is when the pump runs and I don't have any of the slide outs selected, then it'll raise the system up or down, and it's all controlled by this here. So the next thing I verified was that between here and either here or here, I had, between the center post and the upper or the lower, I had that same 14 volts when my wife pressed either the forward or the front or the retract front buttons. So it was just completing the circuit with the solenoid, and the click I heard was coming from this solenoid controlling the bidirectional pump. So the next thing I did, and I've got it unplugged because the problem Spoiler alert was that our pump went bad, and I took it out just to get model numbers so I could buy a new one so that I could replace it, which is the next step here. Is I tested, there are two connections on the dual pump that came from these connectors here, which is why they're unplugged. This one goes there, and the top one goes around to the back. So I verified that I had power on both sides, and then I went a step further and I did a jump box, which is a battery used to jump cars. So that gave me a 12 volt 1000 cranking amps of power. I put that on really quick just to get the motor to run after disconnecting what you see here, and nothing happened. So at that point I contacted Lippert support, and we re-diagnosed, went through the exact same process that I'm talking about here, and we came to the conclusion that the pump is the pump motor is bad. So what I did was I ordered a pump motor off of Amazon. I'll have a link in the description below. You can also order it off of Lippert or from e-trailers. Amazon was the quickest and the cheapest, so that's why I went with that one. You'll see some blue tape on there, and that's because when you remove this pump, and I'll show you I'll go get the new pump and we'll pick up from there. So I'm going to apologize. The campground I'm in are blowing leaves in the background, but this is the new pump that I bought. You'll see that it has two electrodes on that, and then here on the bottom it has two connectors. This is here. Let me just set this upside down. So these nuts here are what connect it to the base, and it goes all the way through, and it's got a nut here so that it goes through. This is a spindle that engages the actual impeller in the hydraulic system, and it sits in an unkeyed connector in the actual pump itself, and there's grease that runs in there. And then you also get a gasket kit. The bigger gasket goes around here to keep the grease here and not down below. And then the two lower ones just go on top here to cushion, or on the bottom. I have to see when I take it out where those are. And then you've got two connectors, and this is a dual polarity pump, so that means you should be able to wire this the same way. I'm going to wire it like this it's going to go in like this. And then you just remove these nuts. You just remove these nuts right here, hook your wires up in the correct order, and you should be good to go. If it is going backwards, then you just switch flip the pump, unbolt it and take the pump around. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape with some blue tape both of these, and then I'm going to unbolt the old pump, set it off to the side, put the new one in, and then with the gasket and everything, and I will try to film as much as possible, but I'm doing this by myself. It's a tight, confined space, so I can't guarantee that I'll get a good video of me doing that, but I'll try to do that with a GoPro or something. So let me go ahead and get this taped up, and then I'll start the removal process and the insertion process. I'm taking it out. So there's a little keyway down in there that I've lined up with the electrodes just to make it easier for the spade to go in. And I'm just unhooking these nuts, gently using it, and then bring the nuts back on the old one so the old one doesn't fall apart on me. Maybe. There's a lot of grease, so. And then I'm going to take these connectors off here and put the O-rings on. And then I'm going to find the side with more tape on it. I'm going to put that in the back. I'm just going to sit this down into the keyway, and then make sure that I'm kind of lined up on everything. Yep. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down. Okay, so it's in and started. Let me rearrange myself here. It's a little bit tight quarters. We're going to snug it up. That's good on that one. I don't want to over tighten these because there's no ring involved. That's good. Okay. So the motor has been remounted. I can go ahead and remove the tape. And we'll just leave that one on there. Next is to hook up the electrical connections. I'm going to hook up this one first. These are 1/4 inch. So put that in. Hand tighten it down. I do not have the other piece. Let me go get it. Okay, so we have successfully fixed our problem, and our hydraulic slide, I tested a hydraulic slide, it moved in and out, no problem. We no longer just have the clicking sound, the motor is running. I've got the old motor here. On the new one, it turned very stiffly, and this one spins very freely. So what that tells me is that the brushes inside are probably burnt out, and there's nothing really doing any type of impedance on this motor. It should be kind of really hard to turn, and I can almost spin this. We'll tear this apart and show you the video of what it kind of looks like inside and what was going on. But while I have this old unit out, I wanted to show people how to actually do the manual hydraulic move. I'll put a link to the instructions I found on the internet down below, and I'll also put a little picture of the actual steps that I used. So at the top of the motor, normally there's a protective piece over this, but there is a 1/4 inch hex in here, and that goes all the way down, and it's a direct connection to the impeller down here. So what you will do is, I just took a standard bit for a drill. You know, it's just a standard bit out of this set. It happens to be 1/4 inch shank, and I put it in backwards. So that way I've got 1/4 inch there, and, you know, giving me as much kind of feel as I purchase as I think I can get away with, so that I'm good. And then I just place that inside. And if you read the instructions, if you go clockwise, I believe, and we'll double check it, and I'll put a caption if I'm wrong, but clockwise will actually retract, pull in slides or retract landing gear. So if you do that and run it, you'll see that it actually runs the thing, which will then do the impeller. And then if I reverse it, it goes in the other direction. And what we did when we did this was, somebody was either hitting the front or the rear landing jacks in manual mode, and then we just ran it the way we wanted to either put the jacks in or out. And then the same for the room slides. You just need to hold it either in or out on the button, and then pick the direction you want to go, and it'll move the slides in or out. So that's how you actually operate this. You know, inside our coach, it's like this. So when you're running it, you know, it's running the impeller, doing whatever you need. And we were actually able to level both left and right and front to back the coach using just the manual with the drill, and it was slower. I went through 1.5 batteries, but we've got our system set up, and we were able to camp for a day or two while we got this part in. This motor retails for $1,000. Like I said, I'll put the links down in the description for Lippert, eTrailer, and Amazon. We're not affiliated with any of them. We just want to give you the best thing. We got it for $700-ish on Amazon at the time of our purchase. Amazon prices are going to vary, and it was also the quickest delivery. We got it in 2 days. eTrailer would have been 3 days, and then Lippert would have been almost a week. So that's what it is. I also put the model number for our particular one. It's a 7-quart system, and you can actually get the whole replacement system. I'll put a link for that also, but you can just replace this without having to take anything apart.
And what's the positive of that? You don't have to deal with hydraulics.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with the hydraulics. You don't have to worry about draining the hydraulics. It's cheaper by a couple $100. And, you know, I'm going to take this. Our next long layover stop is going to be in Florida. So I'm going to take this to hopefully an electronic motor repair place in Florida and get them to rebuild it so I have a backup.
Great. Why do you have blue tape on it?
So I've got blue tape on it, as I mentioned before, is that without these nuts on it, these screws can come all the way out, and then you can actually remove it. We'll show you that when we show you the kind of the tear down video when we take this apart to look at it. You'll also note that this one has some kind of dings and scratches on it. That's because we were banging on it at one point to see if we could actually get it working. So that's kind of what's going on there.
Did that work?
Oh, for a little bit. And then I just want to remind everybody to subscribe, hit that like button, and look out for more maintenance videos. We've got a couple more coming up that we're going to be doing for various things that we're working on the coach. And then we're going to do some just kind of like generic maintenance for, you know, how you hook up like propane tanks and how how I sweep off the roof, that type of stuff.
Great.
Remember, travel baldly.
At this point, Dave finished installing the motor and he's wrapped that all up, and now he's going to give it a try. So he has isolated so that only kitchen slide hydraulics are on, and he's going to push the button now, and hopefully we're going to hear that motor. You can see the slides going in. That is music to our ears at this point. So hopefully you can hear that. That's what a new motor sounds like. And again, that's what we've been waiting for quite a few days now. Success! We've been dealing with hydraulic motor issues for the last day or two. And we finally ended up taking it out. We do have a motor on the way. But it's not here yet. But since we knew we were going to replace it, we did go ahead and take it off. So you see we took blue tape and wrapped it around it because it will come apart if you're not careful. And as you can see, it's kind of burnt up. It's pretty burnt up looking inside, and what's worse, why we really started taking it apart, is this wire here looks okay. If you turn it, it doesn't move or anything. You could tighten it up, but we realized that this side was actually quite loose, and it looks like the wire on this side isn't even attached anymore. I got them mixed up. This is the one that's not attached. So this side's not even attached anymore. This, when they were tightening the connections, this kept turning, and eventually it actually took off the connection completely. So this engine's pretty shot. We're thinking, but it came off relatively easily. So this goes inside, and then this is on top. And he had blue taped it to keep it together, because once you take out the two screws here, the two bolts, they go all the way through. And that attaches the motor onto the hydraulic assembly. So once he took this off, then we could take this off, and we were able to get to the guts of the motor and everything. And again, we were suspecting this connection here, and it has been confirmed now that this is just blown. And that's why we were getting kind of intermittent behavior. This kept kind of tapping. So luckily we have a new motor coming tomorrow, and we should be able to put it in. We are not having to bleed any of the hydraulics in the meantime, which is really nice. And in theory, we should be able to just take the new motor, make sure it's all greased up and the seals are where they need to be, and replace it. We'll see you tomorrow.